Hello there. Good morning. Well, it's morning here for me. It's Friday the 7th of October and it's a bit grey outside, but there's hints of sunshine. It's damp as well. But for me, it's about 9:10 in the morning and it's day 7 of Inktober. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. What you can see in front of you is the first 6 days or the result of. So today, as I said, is day whatever it is, day 7. And the pattern for today is FluxEcho, and it's by Lynn Mead CZT, the step out is, and so on. I've just remembered I've got to find a pair of glasses so I can see what I'm doing properly. So with no further ado, let's get to this. I'm just going to do awful things like that, which I should have done first. We'll zoom in, and I think I'll put some flux echoes around this central, to complete this area here perhaps and to fill some space in. But let's do one in its entirety, I think, to begin with. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start with a lovely orb, a circle. It took a while for my pen to get going because, like me, it's not being very cooperative this morning. And then the way that this starts is we start with this kind of shape, a bit like the Tangle pattern, the Zen Tangle pattern Flux. And then on either side, we're going to do these, but they're going to get progressively a little bit smaller as we create a kind of off-centered, circular kind, off-centered circle, flowery shape. And as these get smaller, they end up looking a bit more like the flux that I know and love, which is the one that is very much like teardrop shapes. So there's my first one, and it isn't quite touching this, but I'll work on that afterwards. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back and I'm going to add some weight where these join together. It's just that little bit of extra ink just adds a sense of solidity and presence, I suppose, and there's also that feeling of some sense of dimension that comes with it. So there's that there. And what I like to do, so I put it the right way up, and hopefully I'll check that I've got this, I have got that on my screen. I'm going to put a couple of sort of semicircles with dots in. So if I zoom in again, because I'm drawing quite small here, but you can see what I've done there, hopefully. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some lines down the centre, and I like to cap all my lines like this with a dot, at least a solid dot. Now, one FluxEcho is not going to be enough for me. And the fact I've missed joining it to the middle bit here isn't a problem, because I'm going to draw another one. Oh, the other thing I want to do, let me take the cap off my pen. Sometimes it's a bit too heavy with the cap on the top. Today is one of those days where it just feels that little bit too heavy. Probably because I've been drawing with microns a lot recently, and they're much lighter. So I hope you're all doing well and that you're finding time to be creative. Thank you ever so much for everybody who's joined my channel, subscribed to it. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you for all the comments. I will reply to ones I haven't replied to yet later on today. And I also want to say it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. So if you like what I'm doing and you'd like to get notifications, then please consider subscribing. It's means the world to me that people find what I'm doing useful to them or enjoyable, or you get something out of it, which is fantastic. So I'm going to draw another one here, but I'm going to add, perhaps do something with a little bit of a twist. Here I'm just having to sort of like imagine how they would go together. And those two bottom ones there I've made a little bit bigger deliberately so they connect with the one I've already drawn. So I am going to add same idea of line weight, particularly around the edges and where these connect, adding some extra ink just to give that feeling of, as I say, solidity. And then instead of a solid dot, let's put a healthy sized open circle on most of them. When I get down to these little ones, there's no way I'm going to be able to draw an open circle, so I'm not going to. And there we are, so we've got another one there. So I could have put teardrop shapes on the top, leaves, all sorts of things. So let's do another one. And I'm going to tuck the orb that I start with in here. And where there's little spaces like there and like here, to help make sense of these patterns, I'm just going to fill them with black for now. And I'm going to pop the same kind of thing here with these shadows in. And then I'm going to draw some nice big flux kind of shape petals. I'm not going to do any at the bottom. I quite like it when they overlap like this and you get to the point where you think, yeah, I've done, don't have any more to draw. It's not that I don't enjoy drawing them, far from it. But it's just nice to have things when they overlap as well. Like this. So something else we could do here is we could add furls. Now furls are almost like the edges of the petals or leaves have curled over, and they are a kind of very flat and wide W shape. You can make them pointy. I prefer them to be rounded, with shapes that are particularly rounded. Oh, there's one that crept in that isn't quite so rounded. So these do look a little bit like the petals are curling over. And I am going to do the same here, where I'm going to put my central lines in. But this time I'm just going to put a little heart on the top of them. Any shape you can think of that would fit on the top here, you could put stars, diamonds, you could put stacks of shapes, leaf shapes. Little ivy leaves would be quite cute actually. Okay. The other thing I was thinking about with this, and this I think, well, it's not going to be my last FluxEcho, but it's going to be almost the last one for today. So I'm going to have my biggest one going like this. So instead of creating that teardrop shape that's so characteristic of Flux, I'm creating these as if they are hearts, and I've now got a pen that's decided it's run out of ink. Oh, joy of joys. I shall persevere for this one. Again, I'm just imagining where these would go. Behind here and here, just to be consistent. That's annoying. So if I look at the tank, it looks like it should be full of ink, but it's not because the ink's stuck to the inside. That's a job for me in a while. So I'll just... Oh! There's some ink flowing now, so perhaps it was just one of those things where it just dried on the nib a little bit. Oh, I've got some bits of paper stuck between it. So I've got these here. I'm just going to add some weight to my orbs actually, because I haven't done that. Just helps them to feel a bit more dimensional as well. And here, I'm going to pop in here a smaller version of the outer heart. People often ask me what pen I'm using, and I forget to say, this one is a TWSBI, TWSBI Eco Tank fountain pen, and this one has an extra fine nib on it, which is the finest nib they do. I have another one which is a fine nib. So there we are. So there's that particular FluxEcho, and I said I wanted to do one more, and I am going to do one more, and I'm going to pop it down here just to connect all of this together. Now these empty spaces here I'm not too worried about, because I've started to fill some in, like you can just see up here, with other patterns in greens that are, or this green is a darker shade of the background green almost. Okay, so here I'm going to do the same kind of thing, but I'm creating petal shapes that are pointed rather than rounded. Wouldn't be any more excuse me, than that, I don't think, and perhaps some lines there. And I'm going to just put the suggestion, there might be some on that side, but we can't see them. And for these, the biggest one, I'm going to aura all the way round. But the others have that feeling that they might be tucked behind each other. So I'm going to tuck the auras in as well. So you get a different kind of feeling here, like that. So there's all the FluxEchos. I will zoom out a moment. So all my FluxEchos. This ink will need a moment to dry, which gives me the opportunity to grab some of my pencils here and to decide what colour I'd like to use. I think I'm going to go with, I've got a light olive here which I used somewhere else, an olive colour. I think I might use that, though I could be tempted to use the leaf green. I think the leaf green was the one that was a bit light. The onion green's a bit dark. Oh, I haven't used the mallard green. I'll take that. I'll take that one. I'll hang on to my iron green as well while I'm at it, as I'm trying to keep pretty much monochrome here. Though I did say, when I was wittering in my last video, because I do witter terribly, but I thought it might be nice to use some purples, which are sort of like bluey purples, not red purples, and perhaps some blues as well. So I'm just looking for, do I want the green aquamarine? I've got iron blue there, which would be a nice one. And I also should have somewhere, I've got an indigo, which would also be nice. So they would give some different colours here. And I'm just going to test these. I'm going to do it on the edge of my paper here so I can see what the purple looks like on top of the green. because I just want to be sure this is a colour I want to use. It's on the edge, so it's not going to be too critical. I think that will actually work quite nicely, and it will work well, particularly with the green aquamarine. So I'm going to add purple, some of this purple right at the base of these FluxEchos. I'm going to remain zoomed out just a little bit for you, just a bit. Like so. And I think I might just put some round the top as well. So I'm going to keep all of this fairly simple, all of my colour blending. And if you watch me, you know I much prefer to use colour than a graphite pencil. I'm not a fan of graphite pencils. I'll use them if I have to for shading, but actually don't mind them if I use them as well as colour over the top of them. Because once you put colour over the top of them, they end up looking quite metallic, and that can be quite a nice effect. But I'm not doing that on this green because the green it's got enough shading in it as it is. So what I'm doing is I am wetting the edge, pushing the colour back where I want it darkest, and then gradually pulling that colour out until it's almost colourless. And then I'm repeating the other side where I'm pushing the colour back towards where I want it to be the darkest, and then using the residual on the brush just to fill that area in. I will be coming back to put highlights on it, so don't panic. There will be lighter areas, and I may need to come back with a bit more of the purple because I do tend to be quite cautious and conservative in my application of colour to begin with, because it's easy to add more, but it's not so easy. Well, with Inktense, which is what I'm using, once you've wet it and it's dried, you can't take it away. You can add to it, but you can't take it away. So caution is a good thing. There we go. This is actually quite a nice change in colour. I think purple is as far as I go towards pinks and reds on this green though. It's a fairly neutral green, but I don't think that unless you use very intense colours that would be almost opaque, that red would necessarily work too well, for example. It could do. Perhaps I'm just being cautious there. In my head, red and green always make a mucky brown. But I'm sure there are cases, it depends how much red and how much green you have. So the central bit there is just a lot darker than the edges, which is fine because I can come back and adjust that. Okay. Iron blue, deep indigo. Let's go with the iron blue. Put some round here. Again, making sure I get plenty in the centre, because if anything, it's the centre where I'll want it the darkest. But I'm also looking where I've got overlaps happening, where I want to put some shadow there as well. Doing this in exactly the same way-ish. These little the smaller areas are a bit trickier to deal with than the larger areas. But as I know I'm going to be adding shadow highlights, I'm not too worried, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. And these round areas, I'm not going to try and go round them because I'm likely to fill those with a white gel pen or a souffle pen, something like that, as I've done in the rest. Okay. Don't know why I've missed one. I've just gently pressed this to get some more water because the you do need some water flowing through this. Otherwise you're using basically a dry brush, dry brush. I do need some colour, some water. So that's actually quite a nice change of tone as well. I do like that. Okay, I have got this mallard green which I'll use. And I'll use it on this one. Now this is going to be similar to aquamarine here, but it's more green. The aquamarine green is a bluer colour. So here I'm putting plenty of colour where this furls over. And I may need to come back to this to add some other colour in there to give the shadows. And I may want to just tone this colour down just a tad as well, because it's very bright, it's lovely. And I can hear it starting to rain. Oh, joy of joys. It's fine. So the fact that I've put this over the hearts doesn't make a difference because I'm going to use gel pen probably on there. Now for these little furls I am going to put some of this in here. But I'm also going to go and find that dark aquamarine. Is that it? Yeah. This dark aquamarine is the bluer toned one. But I just want to put this here as a darker colour and a slightly different colour as well, just to help show that these are curled over. There we go, it's a bit better. And again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to add lighter areas on the edge. And that dark aquamarine is lovely, so I think we'll use that one here. Yep, I know I'm completely ignoring those hearts in the middle. It'll be fine, trust me. This is what layering colours is all about. And adding colours in layers. So this is a lovely colour as well on this green. So yeah, I'm glad I've broadened out into blues and purples as well as using greens here. Part of me thinks, oh, I wish I should have stuck to just the greens, just a couple of greens, and done everything fairly monochrome. But there's a part of me that loves to use colour. These colours are fairly close to each other on the colour wheel, so you've got green next to blues, next to purples, bluey purples. And so they're known as analogous colours. And analogous colours will always work harmoniously together. So and I quite like them. Let that dry. And then I've just got this one down here to do, and this is where I'm going to do a bit of a difference. No, I won't use that one actually. I've got some in there. It's too late now, but I'm going to use my indigo on the inside. In the inside sections. Just at the base of them. And just Fill that up, like so. Okay, and I'll come back to deal with that in a moment. Here, I want to use that purple because I'm going to put some purple on the top of this aquamarine. But I'm putting the purple at the tops of these inner hearts. So yeah, I most probably could have avoided them, but sometimes it's just nice to layer colours, as they will work together really quite nicely then. Not that they wouldn't otherwise, but I just think there's not too much of that aquamarine, dark aquamarine in the sections of these hearts. It's just a very light wash, except for the base. So that works nicely. I'm coming back to this and I'm going to use a green. I think I might try the light olive. And I'm going to put the light olive right at the base of these sections, and then on the sides where they overlap and a little bit at the top on this one. Need some there. And this is a different kind of colour combination to the other bits, but it'll work, it'll tie in with other areas of the design so far. Okay. So it's perhaps not the best colour choice, but it'll do. That's the point, it will do. Okay, let me move these out the way, because I do want to get my pens here. That's the one I want. My pencils. I have got here, this is an antique white Inktense pencil, and it won't be as bright as, say, the souffle pens or the others, but it will lighten this up in the centre. And I don't want to go into the realms of green or yellows here or anything like that. I want to keep this pretty much monochrome, as it were, or, you know, keeps the colours. But I am going to just activate it because that will make this permanent. But there's so much of it on here, it should not be particularly dulling down in any way. I'm containing the colour in the one space. I just want it so it's not going to get brushed around like white charcoal can. And yet some of the ink has been muted, but I'm fine with that today. If the ink that I've drawn there is that little bit muted, I'm okay with that. There we go. All right, so that's the FluxEcho so far. What I have got here is I've got a white gel pen, and I'm going to use this in a couple of ways. One way, I'm going to fill these little shapes in with white. Me and gel pens don't really get on, you know. It's true, we don't. They always seem to work well for everybody else, but for me, I always have these problems. But I said I was going to do something about this little curled over bit. I'm going to put a very fine white line right up next to the black, like this. So it suggests something's going on there. With these, I'm going to put dots of white in the middle of these little black dots, leaving an edge of black around them. And this one, I'm going to have some dots coming back down. Centre. This one I'm definitely going to fill this with. Do you know what? These white centres are bugging me at the moment. I know exactly what I want to do with them. So give me a mo. Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, that'll do. Nope, let me have a look. Yeah, that's the one I want. I've got my souffle pen. I haven't got a piece of scrap paper, so as I'm using the edge here, I'm just going to get it working, clean the dried ink off, and then I'm going to go all the way around this with white. So I'm filling these central bits in with the white souffle. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go back and add those black details, but we'll see what happens, because they really are troubling me here at the moment. Just want to make sure I've got them all filled in. While they're wet, I can just go back. Once they start drying, this will mess the surface up, so I want to make sure I've got enough there. So these will be very white, and they will be what they will be, is all I'm going to say. This one here, I'm going to add some lines that will lighten the edges of these inner bits up, because that, as much as I love the indigo, it's turned out it's not my favourite bit here, but it'll be fine. And I'm going to do the same around the edge of these. And I'm curling these lines as well to match the curve. Not curling, I'm curving them to match the curve of the particular fluxy petal. And so that adds that brightness and lightness and interest there, and it breaks the background colour up. So I'm going to do the same with these. Just put a dot or two on these other ones. So that's already bright. That really does brighten them up. I'm being cautious of where I put my hand, because the souffle ink does take a wee while to dry. And if I miss with the white pen and cover up a black line, that's going to be easy enough to fix. So we've got some there, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing here. So the colours are really bright and vibrant when they're wet. When they dry, they do dull down. And the grey-green paper isn't much of a help with that. But that means that everything's in keeping with each other on the page. But that white really does help lift it. And the other thing I'm going to do is I did pick out an 01 pen here. And I'm just going to add some. It is an 01, yeah. Feeling rather, it feels thicker than an 01. And I'm just going to intensify the shadows at the base and also extend some of these lines up, so we haven't got that big area of very little interest. Now, possibly if I was wiser and had thought about it before I started doing this, I'd have gone into my stash of fine liner pens and found ones that would be slightly darker in colour than the colours I've used, so that I wouldn't be using the stark black, but I'm not always wise about such things. And I did lose a black line there, so I'll just there. And that, I think, will do for that, possibly. I'll just zoom out so you can see everything in its entirety, in its oneness, as it were. And I'm going to call that a job done. So I really do hope you've enjoyed this one, and you'll give FluxEcho a go. I know I've got some awkward backgrounds here, but as I've said, where I've done here with the that print on, filling that in that green colour, I'm likely to do similar things around and about, or fill them in with other patterns once I know what's what. My only disappointment here, only two things I'm regretting. One is trying to colour this in with Inktense. I should know that is too big an area for me to do well. And the other one is, seriously, as much as I love white gel pens and things, sometimes I think I've gone a bit too bright with these, but they are what they are. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to do as well, which was to add shadows underneath these furled petals here. So I'm going to do that with this 01. I could actually do with something that's finer than the 01. Probably should have got my fountain pen back out, but that will do. Yeah, that just helps to give that illusion that those are curling over. It's very subtle, especially when you're far away and when I'm zoomed out. So I hope you're enjoying this. I hope that you are having fun if you're taking part in Inktober, or just trying to you know, catch up with things. No, I say catch up with things. What am I talking about? I don't know. I've lost the plot a moment. I hope you're having a go at doing Inktober. You're having fun with it, enjoying what you're creating, and find it relaxing and soothing, which is one of the reasons I do it. And it's also a bit of a challenge because I come across patterns I don't use or haven't used for a long time. And it's a good way for me to practice things on and try new ideas out. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being with me. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Comments are always welcome. And don't forget to subscribe. It's free. So take care for now. Ta-ra.